He's going to be back there in the back. Again, we're going to run into our panel real quick, and then we're going to wrap it up fairly soon so we can get y'all lunch and get y'all fed. I'm not one to stand between any man and food, so I will not do that to y'all for sure. So, again, we have Coach Josh Christian and Edgar Vasquez. Coach Christian was the offensive coordinator at Maypearl this past season. Coach Vasquez was the offensive coordinator. Don't let his colors fool you now. He was at Carrollton Creekview. He has made the big-time move down to New Caney as the passing game coordinator down there. And so two young guys who are making big moves. So we're going to talk, kind of do a quick panel. If y'all have questions that y'all want answered at the end, I'm going to have 5 quick questions we'll work through. Again, if you have questions at the end that you have for these guys, definitely feel free to shout those out and let us know. But basically the format of this is going to be Saturday through Friday. So how they start their week game planning, what do they do from the week before to prepare them for the week ahead, and then what do they do each day of the week, and then ultimately what do they do on game day to help make sure their kids are prepared and ready. So starting off with Josh, and then we'll move over to Edgar. When you're picking an OC job, how do you pick the job that you're fixing to take, and what do you do to prepare yourself to interview for that?
First off, do your research. This is probably all stuff that we've all heard and already know, but this is kind of what I do, which isn't the way, it's just a way. I would say know where you're going, what you're going into, what the previous either head coach or play caller, OC, was doing, what they were running, so you have a kind of a context of what you're possibly entering into as that possible new OC, whether it's a play calling OC spot or it's kind of just a title OC spot. How are you going to maximize yourself in that role and add value to that program for that head coach that you're going to interview with? So it's kind of you got to do your research and understand what you're coming into and what you're looking for while you're applying for that spot. And you know, there's a huge list that we could continue on, but that would probably be my first things, looking at the job, coming to it, what am I walking into for this interview, and what am I going to talk about, and so on. So kind of build it off of that.
I want to piggyback off of Josh and what he said specifically doing the research, but I kind of took a deep dive insight into the research that I've done. One of my mentors kind of taught me things to look for statistically when you research for a job. A couple of years ago when I was an offensive coordinator at Brian Rudder High School, you know, the school coming into that job, they were 25 and 81. However, though, you know, my mentor told me, well, how many points a game are they scoring, right? How many yards a game they're getting? And he gave me kind of a target number. If they can average 21 plus points per a game, then you've got something you can work with base personnel-wise. So I kind of look at that as a starting point, look at who's returning, who's coming back, because you got to think, if you got 21 points a game, you play some pretty solid defense, you play special teams, you've got a shot to win the game. And that kind of rule of 21 has kind of really helped me over the years as we've kind of navigated games, because you kind of see, like, you're probably going to be in games if you do play some decent defense, have some solid special teams. So that's one part of it. The other part is the history of the school. I think it's TexasHighSchoolFootballHistory.com. It has the records of, like, every season of every program in the state. You can kind of investigate how many wins they have all time, playoff wins, record the past 5 years. That kind of tells you a little bit too. You know, you can see the trends over time, because you can kind of see, you know, like a lot of these schools now, there's a lot of multi-high school districts, right? So sometimes that takes kids away from different districts. You know, is it a one-horse town? Those specific things, kind of like, I really dive in a little bit analytically with that, just because it kind of helped me get a little insight with the job. You know, seeing at Rudder, you know, specifically, it was a 2-horse town, but there's still a lot of, you know, talented kids going down Highway 6, if those of you guys know what I'm talking about, you know, Bryan College Station area. So I saw it as a good opportunity, you know, and we were able to turn around that program. They had never been to the playoffs. First time they went to playoff school history during our time there for 4 years. So things like that, kind of just what Josh talked about, but just dive in a little bit deep. You can never go too deep, and ask questions, look at Twitter, you know, look at junior high records if you can find those. I mean, really do your research. You can never look too much, talk to people.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So for question number 2, I want to take a deep dive into what does your weekend look like? As you're preparing for the week ahead, as you're preparing for your opponent, how much time are you spending on the week before? Are you going to be quick, flush it, move on to the next week and look at film and prepare that way? Or are you taking notes on what you did the week before to give you answers for the week ahead. And then what do you do to fire up your kids? Are you giving out awards, helmet stickers? What do you do offensively to keep energy and enthusiasm in your program? Evie, we'll start with you on this one.
So in regards to kids, a lot of the things these kids like these days, there's a lot of you gotta have a lot of intrinsic motivation obviously built into the individual. That's kind of comes from them themselves, but also extrinsic, the stickers, the decals, turnover chains, touchdown chains. You gotta get really excited about that kind of stuff because the kids, they see you enthusiastic about rewarding their play on the field, not just giving stickers, but you can give them T-shirts. There's a lot of different things we've done to reward these kids. Gatorade Player of the Day in practice, Gatorade Player of the Game, those specific things. They really like that stuff. We did a lot of things like that, at Rudder, and the kids got really excited just because, they were getting rewarded for that, but, they kind of had something to play for, but, they get excited and enthusiastic about it. So that's kind of one way to fire them up specifically, but also show them too, how does their success in the game and, whatever situational data you guys chart or do, how does that translate to wins? What have they done in practice all week? What do they do in the game to help them win the game? Show them how the game matters, like winning third down, winning in the red zone, taking care of the football, those things. And I'm sure you guys do that. But making the game make sense to them because a lot of these kids, you're sending them to college and that awareness really helps, down the line. So I think just kind of teaching the game because kids want to be taught, they don't want to learn. So reaching to them that way is one way to motivate them. Regards to Saturdays, we kind of did a different approach coming on Saturdays. So we don't bring the kids on the weekends. We let them have a rest. We feel like that allows our central nervous system to recover. So coaches came in on Saturdays. We got everything done Saturday. So we'll review the game, we'll tag it, get the stats compiled, we'll look at what we did. After that, we'll meet to discuss how the game went, what the numbers were like. Then we'll go to breaking down our opponents. We'll tag many things in huddle. You guys formations, blitzes, coverages. One thing that kind of helped kind of filter everything down was basically narrowing all that down to everything was 80% of their tendencies, right? Sometimes we get caught chasing ghosts as coaches. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. I want to focus on what are they in 80% of the time defensively. What's their fronts 80% of the time? What's their coverages, right? Because if you can prepare to 80%, that's great. So now you got that covered. But there's 20% left, right? How do you fill that 20%? Well, you're trying to coach the kids up in that 20% as well too, right? Because there's little things you might pop in. But if you can cover 80%, guys, that really helps you a lot in terms of just, breaking the game down. That helped me a lot because as a young coach, I was really, just scramble-brained. And that kind of helped me. So we tag everything, draw out the formations, fronts, blitzes, coverages. Once we go into that, we start kind of, as a staff, one thing that we did together was everybody kind of had a say about plays. So basically, I would draw up 3 plays on the board that I felt like we could do against what they were showing defensively, right? But the assistant coaches had 2 different plays they could do that same Saturday. It increases ownership. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has a say in it. Now, does that mean every idea gets used? Not necessarily. But I also, too, my mentors put me in those spots to grow me, draw it up on the board. Well, I should do the same, too, for my staff. You see what I'm saying? We've got to grow each other, so we draw it up and do those specific things. As it goes through the rest of the week, that's pretty much you have your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practices, depending on when you play your game. We do situations. Monday, it'd be like 1st and 10, so forth. So, is that right if I go into the Wednesday part, or do you want to just?
No, that's, great answer. And then we'll get into more the week later.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I'd take a B average any day of the week, so 80%'s a pretty good place to be sitting. JC?
So the first question was the first part was about kids. What we do is it's kind of more, I guess informal would be the perfect word for it. If we drop 50 points on someone, I may be a minute or 2 late to Saturday morning, weights with the kids that show up after the game on Friday because I'm getting 2 boxes of donuts for that O-line because it's all about those kids and just celebrating them and doing something special like that for them and acknowledging the O-line as much as possible and building team around that core unit because those 5 guys are the most important on the field. And, I've been taught you get what you emphasize. And if you emphasize those types of servant type leadership things where you acknowledge the O-line, then you're teaching your kids to follow that lead, which is really important because that's what we're here to do as coaches, is build these kids into young men and teach them how to be servant leaders. So that's kind of part one. Part two with Twitter, social media, having someone either on your staff that's excellent in the graphic design, or maybe you have a teacher, he or she on campus, and they teach graphic design if you're at a really big school and you have that, or if you're at a smaller school and they're just talented with technology and software, and maybe they teach your financial math class or whatever. Build that relationship, get them to buy in, give them a hat, give them a t-shirt, and make them part of the team. You want your program, in a sense, we're talking about offense specifically, you want your brand to be out there in front of people, and you want them to know how to celebrate your brand and your offense and the product that you're putting on the field, because it's your community and it's your school, and it's also a representation of you as the coach and as the coordinator of what your plan is for that game plan in the week. So those are probably two things that I'll say on that. And then the other part is on, was it game planning? Saturdays. So Saturdays, it's different everywhere. A lot of it for me is all about my relationship with the head coach. What does he need me to do as the coordinator, as the head coach of the offensive side of the ball? How can I help him win? So that's looked different places for me and different stops that I've been, where, it's like, as far as, we need to do this, this, and this, and this on huddle. Okay, awesome. Or, you know what, like we just need this, and then we need to do, helmet stickers for the next 30 minutes and figure that out kind of stuff, right? Everyone has a different process for your efficiency on the weekends. For me personally, I am not a grinder. I come in with a plan with our offensive staff. My dad is an old head football coach from 30 years ago. He eye rolls at me when I talk about our process for the weekends, because we are in and out, and we go home to our families and our babies and take a nap and have a weekend. Maybe catch a college football game if we're lucky. But we know what our plan is, and we don't go beyond it. We don't have anxiety over we're not doing enough. We know what our plan is, we know what our structure is, and we're disciplined and we stick to it, and we get what we emphasize. So if we emphasize X, Y, and Z, well, we're going to follow through with that, and then we're going to teach our kids to be disciplined and get what they emphasize also in the practice plan throughout the week. So what does that mean? Saturdays, we're going to make sure that we grade the film. Every kid gets feedback. Every kid that played, they need to understand what they did better, what they didn't do as well as what we would have liked, as what they would have liked, and how to improve. Because that's what we're here. We're here to be teachers. So we really emphasize that we're teaching, and we're teaching what they need to do within our offense, within our philosophy of, hey, your outside release, it needs to look this way because it's going to do this later on. It's going to set up this that we need to do. Just an example. So we do that. We grade out the film. We make sure that those kids don't get their grades, depending on how many plays it lasts or overtimes or whatever. Maybe coach, his son or his daughter was sick the night before and he didn't get to the film and graded it. No big deal. We're not, hard and fast on it. It's just, hey, you're a grown man. You can do your job and get that graded papers to the wide receivers by Monday. That's what we try to do. So they have it in their locker by Monday. So when they're looking at, I got an 87%, and I see all of my plays and my pluses and my minuses, and then I go from there. So we do that. We grade out the film. We split the film in half so we can kind of tag it, and then we can begin our self-scouting process of like, hey, our run-pass ratio was this week. This formation looked this way this week. Personnel, this, that, whatever, okay? Just depending on what you guys are trying to do in your philosophy and what you want on the field Friday night. So we get that done. Those probably take the longest amount of time, honestly speaking. And then after that, the game planning process, I come from the air raid background. So guy later on that's going to be here later this evening, Stan Bedwell, that is my mentor. I have built a relationship with him, and he is awesome, and he gives He gives all of the information that you would ever want and need, and he's helped me kind of formulate kind of a foundation, and then I've kind of made it my own from there to the context that I'm at. I'm at a 3A school where kids play both sides of the ball, and then they're playing special teams, 2 different phases of the game and special teams, and so I've got to make that and cater that to what we're doing within our brand of the air raid offense. And when I say air raid, it's the true form air raid where X, he's on the left side of the field the whole game. You know, that's just where he is, and he gets good at that side of the field, and he's confident in it, and he goes and executes. Same thing with Y. Y will never come to the left side of the field because that's where he is. But again, that's the philosophy that we as coaches, me as the coordinator, as the leader, but as the offensive coaches on the staff, we buy into that, we commit to it, and then we stick to it, and we make it roll. So it kind of works itself out in that sense because we have a philosophy and identity, and we stick with it. So that's kind of what Saturday looks like as far as the huddle process goes, working with the kids and their feedback on the grading part, and then the game plan structure. If you guys have seen the pictures of Coach Leach, Mike Leach, who's no longer with us, wish he was, but you know, he's got his napkin paper, right? We're building the script, and that's what we're talking about is what we're going to do on offense this week. We're not necessarily worried about, and Coach just said it, chasing ghosts. We do care about what the defense is. Is it a 1-high team, 2-high team, 4 down, 3 down? Are they playing the 3-high structure, which a lot of teams are doing these days to try and stop us from throwing the ball like what we like to do? That's fine, but we don't really care too much about it. You know, like Coach Hal Mummy would say, we're giving the defense too much credit at that point. It's all about us and our execution throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, and then let's go play ball on Friday. So, you know, I try to be very general with that response, but that's kind of what Saturday looks like. At the end of the day on Saturday, it's like, hey, here's what it is. Kind of looks like last week. There's some wrinkles here and there, some tags, whatever, but, you know, what else do we need? And usually we're all like, nothing, let's go play ball, and then we go do it. So that's what Saturday kind of looks like, generally speaking.
Awesome, and just kind of piggybacking off of what Josh said, I'm super passionate about getting new young guys into the profession, and I know some of y'all have been doing it for a lot longer than I have, and y'all are a lot, guys. I don't feel qualified to be on the stage right now at all by any means. But the hard thing for young guys coming out, they look around the world around them, and they see people at a coffee shop at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. And your dudes are grinding it out in the classroom and then going to practice afterwards and maybe weights before school. And so for them to have a Saturday or a Sunday, and I'm a grinder. I was blessed to play for Terry Gamble at Midway. I was blessed to work for Matt Rule when he was at Baylor. Those are 2 dudes who slept in the coach's office. I'm all about it. I'm telling you, from my peers' point of view, they have a hard time justifying getting into a profession that they can't do from home. And so maybe they don't need to be in the profession at that point, and maybe they don't care about kids enough at that point. But I think by and large, I think we're going to have to start getting dynamic in the way that we're recruiting young coaches, because I heard a stat the other day, I think 33% of coaches are over 40 years old. And y'all are going to last to maybe 50, 55 before retiring. And then the number of coaches getting out before 25, I think, is at 50, 60% is what he told me. That's not good numbers, especially if we're trying to maintain staffs of 16 people. And the smaller schools are trying to maintain staffs of 6 to 8 people. We gotta get creative and innovative. Just a thought, because I know we're all passionate about this game. And we're more than anything passionate about the kids that we serve and get to love on in a day and age where, man, they're under a microscope and they are ridiculed to no end. So that's my encouragement, kind of cut into the panel. Just how can we serve our coaches so they can serve our kids? Moving back into the questions for install. What does your install look like? Are you installing new stuff just preseason? Are you installing things to week 5? Are you going all the way through the end of the season? And going back to the preseason part, what does that look like? Are you doing formations and then concepts? Are you doing X amount of formations a day, X amount of concepts a day? Tell me what install looks like and what your cutoff point for installing things are.
Okay, so we do a 3-day install. It's a day 1, day 2, day 3 deal, and then it repeats. And that's the strength of the air raid offense. When you run it in its true form, you're being disciplined, sticking with, what it is. And the tricky part is just being a football nerd like I am. You get on Twitter and you see what Zach posted, and it's like, dang, I want to do that, and it's like, well, that doesn't fit because it's not part of what you're doing already, or it's just there is no room for it. The classic story that you can probably hear from, Coach Mummy and Coach Leach and all of those great air raid coaches, that are still coaching today. They're gonna say like, one day I was an assistant coach and I came into the office with Coach Mummy and I said, Coach, how about we run this play? And he goes, okay, well, which one do you want to take out? Which one are we going to take out that we already have installed and in that you're going to replace with that? If that play works and it's part of the system and our kids execute it, why take it out? So I say that to say with our 3-day install, we have 6 run concepts, and that's probably too much, honestly speaking. But again, being at a 3A, we may have, our right guard get injured, and then our second string right guard is, he's 165 pounds maybe, and it changes a lot of things with your dynamic. At a 5 and a 6A, when you've got maybe a little bit more depth with kids that can, plug in and keep fresh legs on the field, and you don't really, sacrifice or lose a lot of either body weight or speed on the field or catching abilities, whatever it is, that may look different. So again, it comes back to what your context is and what you're working with. Our 3-day install, we've got two run plays per day. We run the ball one particular way per play. So like last year for us, we ran the trap one way. And the reason we did that is to build confidence in our kids. So that right guard, he loved when I called trap because he couldn't wait to smoke that kid on the end of the line of scrimmage on the trap block because he's foaming at the mouth for that opportunity to do that. And he doesn't have to worry about when we run trap to the right because he never has to worry about that job description. He can be confident in his one job that he's got to do and run that play to the left. Now, yes, the trade-off is, coach, you're predictable, or you're giving away your hand, or you're going to show 10 weeks of film and you're only running trap to the left. Well, again, yes, but I don't care. I care about us executing. I don't care about the defense necessarily. We're going to go and play our brand of ball, and we're going to execute and play fast and do all those things that you guys have heard about the air raid. And that's the strength of the offense. And so we've got 2 run plays per day. We've got 2 screens, 1 quick game, and then we run mesh every day, and then 2 to 3 drop back passes every day. So that's pretty much what it looks like, and then it repeats itself. And there's kind of a 2-a-days, or we don't call it 2-a-days anymore. I call it fall camp. We got a fall camp format for that. And then when we get into season with the game plan structure, with that tiny little napkin paper that everyone's seen pictures of, Lincoln Riley has his and Coach Leach has his and, whatever, that is part of the practice plan. And you don't divert from it. And it's a very strict schedule. And it helps you on Friday night when you're on the field and whatever week it is, week 10, week 2, week 5, week 6 after the bye week and week 5, if your kids can get out on the field and execute the first 4 plays without looking at you on the sideline, well, that's proof, that's evidence of the offense working because of the reps that you've gained throughout the week and the process that you as a coach and a coaching staff is stuck to with your philosophy. But again, it comes down to what you want to do, how you do that, and what you emphasize is what you get. And so I'm really big on that. And I don't really care, if we don't run trap to the right because we're going to run to the left really well. And it may not work that week, and that's fine. We'll run GT to the left, whatever it is. So that's kind of our philosophy with that.
Okay, EV, question for you. Do you have a specific process for picking gadget or trick plays?
So a lot of kind of piggyback what Josh talked about, like, you guys see plays on the weekends and, you like that play. Can I do that? I definitely do love trick plays. I think they're fun. There's quite a few. I try not to carry more than 3 trick plays, per week. You never know when you might need them. I remember we played a game and we probably ran, as a playoff game, we ran 3 of them and we scored 3 touchdowns on them. So yes, there's a process for it. I kind of look what the defense, what was the defense struggle against? Are they very aggressive? Do they over pursue? And then you take advantage of things like that with, misdirection. It could be a reverse. It could be double pass, those specific things. We can build that off of our offense. Like we had a double pass off of a quick hitch screen. We had a jet sweep reverse going back the other way, buck sweep opposite. Just things like that, yeah, about 3 per week. Take advantage of the defense. And, some of them are, flea flicker. Everybody runs that. I mean, those are all things you can do. I mean, there's no secrets in football. I try to keep it simple, but the kids love them no matter what it is. And about 3 per week just because, kids like it, but you never know when you might need them. I mean, and I'm kind of a gambler when it comes to that stuff. So, might as well go down swinging because you're going to need those plays when when you're playing somebody who's better than you. I mean, you might as well go down swinging 110% because you can't play it safe. You gotta play the game to play the game. So.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Good answer. I know kind of hits on what Coach DeBest said too. What are we doing to make it fun for kids? And that's going to be when you get them 7th, 8th grade and they're sitting in the stands on Friday nights watching your guys play. If they're doing double passes and flea flickers and Statue of Liberties and all that, kids get excited. They don't know what it means, but they get excited, and that gets them out for freshman football. And you never know when that little pudgy tuba player becomes your star wide receiver, running back, right? So awesome. Way to keep it exciting. Last question for them, and then if we have anybody in the audience that wants one, so you can start brainstorming those. What is your practice structure for the week? Just walk us Wednesday through Thursday, and then when you get to Friday, what is your play calling, and how does what you did Monday through Thursday translate into that Friday night?
Okay, so kind of already touched on that a little bit with that last answer I gave, but to kind of go further with it, we on our play call sheet we have our script set, and for us we do about 12 open field plays, and that's field geography we're talking about. So usually that's from, I think it's somewhere around the 30-yard line or 25-yard line. Minus 25-yard line, minus 30-yard line, somewhere around there, and going to I think it's plus 20, okay, because that's red zone. So we've got 12 scripted plays there, okay? That's usually the meat and potatoes of whichever day it is on the install. I think for us that is day 1, which would be your Monday, okay? And then Tuesday will be your situational calls, something to the effect of like, hey, this is going to be 2nd and long. If we get behind the sticks after a bad first down play, so these are our 2nd and long plays, which is usually like 5 or 6 plays or so, maybe less than that. And then you're going to work on your red zone calls, which is usually no more than 5. So, but what's awesome in the air raid system is a lot of those are transferable, or they carry over where you've got a repeat play on the open field script. And then, yeah, we still like it if we're throwing 95, and it's a great look this week. Well, that's play 3 in the open field script. It may show up in 3rd down script, right? So there's a lot of overlap and carryover there. But all that does for us as coaches is it buys us reps, and it gives you confidence in the game plan call when it comes about on Friday night. It gives you confidence, and you don't have to stress about the perfect call, because your kids have repped it all week, and those reps have to count for something. So, so that's, your Tuesday looks like that. Wednesday for us, we kind of focus on the going in and coming out portion, which really never changes. It's usually the same 3 plays, maybe a 4th one for a good play action, or you want to run a double post, or whatever it is to maybe catch them off guard, because you've shown it the last 3 or 4 weeks on film. And it's like, hey, they know we're running, this in this formation. We've conditioned them to see it, so now we're going to hit them over the top, for the first game of district or whatever, and hopefully get a big play out of it. So that's usually what Wednesday looks like. Every day in that practice plan, though, we do bandit drill, which is like what Coach was just talking about, which is that perfect tempo play mindset where we're working hash to hash. What we do, I found this from just research on my own. Gus Malzahn does it. It's a 4-play sprint drive where if it's a fumbled snap, incomplete, whatever, we're running 4 plays as fast as we can. We move 10 yards down the field. We meet in the end zone, and we break and hustle off to the sideline. The next group is on. And that has been really valuable. But we only do it with our run game and our screen game for the day. It's run and screen game, which usually for us is 4 plays. And we rock and roll through that as many reps as we can get. And I think it's an 8-minute segment, and get as much as we can. And then we move on to our bandit drill, which is our full offense for the day. The awesome thing is by the end of the week on Friday, we carry our full offense into it. We may have a tag here or there, or maybe a motion that changes maybe one thing, if any. But it's awesome when you have that confidence going into Friday because you've repped it all week. Works itself out.
So I'm kind of piggyback off of Josh a little bit. I do borrow a little bit from the air raid philosophy, but I kind of get a little bit more situational. Just something kind of, you take a lot of ideas from people who've mentored you over the years. You can't cover every situation possible, but I think you've got to decide as a staff what's the most important, what is your identity. So I'm looking at my phone here because I want to show you guys. I'm going to read it off, but these are kind of, what I did was I built a kind of a script throughout the week. What do we do Monday through Thursday? And within that script, these are situations we felt were most important for our kids. So on Monday's practice, we're going to work a lot of 1st and 10 calls because if you think about defensively, they're always preparing, 1st and P, however you want to look at it, right? Those first plays are very important, 1st and 10. You got to have confidence. You got to have confidence builders in your kids. We work a lot of screens because we're a screen-heavy team because to me, screens are just like glorified runs on the perimeter. So that's a big, heavy dose on Monday's practice. Tuesday will be more red zone and backed up situations. If you have bad field position, you can work those situations with your players. I think you've got to work those in because the players have to see you guys on the field in those areas of the field, but also, too, we got some down and distance chains on there. So now when they're in that clutch situation in the game, they're not confused or they're not worried about that. Wednesday's more goal line and 3rd and short. You got to win on 3rd down and you got to punch it in, right? I mean, we lost a playoff game against Marshall, and I could have sworn we scored 2 different times on the goal line, ball across the plane. But guess what? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of where the identity comes from. We punched in, but they didn't count it, right? But it's goal line, right? Situational football. Thursday goes more into a little bit more 3rd down, but I think everybody here does kick the field. I learned more about it from Coach Rick Rhodes when I was with him at Gregory Portland. He did throughout his career, covered a lot of situations and kick the field, backed up, red zone, 2-minute situations. You got a punt with the quarterback. We call it Q-tip. The quarterback lines back up and shotgun punts it. Worked all those weird scenarios in the game, right? That Thursday kick the field was so important. When we started doing that, and then my first exposure to it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing because you're covering so much, right? And like what Josh talked about, like we're running on and off the field, right? We're saying like, all right, 2-minute situation, or we go punt team, or safety, or backed up. Like we're calling those situations out, and the kids have to go from the sideline, right? Like it's not like in practice where you got kids everywhere, right? Like we're on the sideline, it's like a game, we're coaching, we're doing it. So the kick the field is really big on Thursdays. That's really helped over the years, and it's helped me as a coach situationally because you cover all the bases there. I know a lot of you guys probably do it, but those are just kind of a little bit of the layers of it. So doing those things, Thursday's practice plan, we have plays scripted in that kick the field too. So, I mean, it's all built in. If you guys want to see it or anything like that, I could kind of show you guys, templates of it or whatever. I'm an open book. It's not my ideas, it's everybody else that's kind of poured into me, and I've kind of taken some things and tweaked them. But a lot of that, guys. I mean, that's situational football is the name of the game. You gotta play your situations to win.
Yeah, just to add, I forgot to talk about Thursday. I think that's critical with what he just said is our relationship as coordinators with the head coach. What does he need? What is his plan for kick the field? Because everyone's different, right? And then you have to figure out, and within your philosophy, whether it's a one-back system, it's a spread tempo system, it's Scotty Walden, go as fast as you can, and and win the West. or it's, whatever it is, wing tee. What do you have to get done on that Thursday before the game on Friday, and make sure that your kids are, you're primed and you're ready to go execute on Friday. But again, that's you and your relationship with the head coach. And then, just making that work and kick the field or walk through, whatever we want to call it, on that Thursday.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. So that was the scripted questions I had. Does anybody in the crowd have anything they want to go ahead and ask? Just background, these guys were both at Maypearl's a 3A, and Creekview. Were y'all 4 or 5A this year? 5A. So if you want to ask to a specific person based on your classification, Coach Christian, this one's coming to you.
Let me ask you a question. So this season, what was your main concept? 6, 95, or where were you at? What was your main concept?
Well, it depended on 1 high or 2 high, and just kind of going from there. But then there's also the element of the human element, where what's your quarterback do? What does he like best? Because it's like you got to have a relationship with him as the play caller. Your relationship with your starting quarterback is probably the most important in sports. So it's like, hey, do you like throwing? Do you like 6 here? Oh, you don't like it in 2x2? Okay, you like it better in 3x1? Okay, so we're throwing out 2x2 this week, and let's not waste time on it, right? Don't force our kids if they're not comfortable executing whatever it is or trying to execute whatever it is. Let's do what they're wanting to do, and then make that work for the game plan. For us, though, to answer your question, I guess a little bit better, personnel for us at Maypearl, we had a bunch of 4.9 guys. we didn't have anybody really. We have one guy that can run a 4.5, and he's our running back. He's our best player, and I'm really glad that he plays running back because he gets the most touches naturally anyway. Even though we are air raid with our philosophy, and we're going to pass the ball to set up the run, well, good thing is when we're running the ball, he's going to get it, okay? So all that set aside, if you've got kids, that are like my kids where, they're hard-working country kids running 4.8s and 4.9s, no one's running a 4.5 or a 4.4, in that part of Ellis County, that is, 6 maybe isn't the best play. So what is a play that you could do maybe instead to replace the vacuum that 6 leaves? For us, that was 95. We had a Y who was really good at getting underneath that Sam, over the mic, reading that opposite side safety for the weak side flood, and I'm either going to flatten it out and find grass and catch the ball at 15 to 17 yards like he's taught, or he was going to keep working vertical and we'd throw that thing in stride and we'd roll. Our X, and again, this is air raid philosophy here, our X, he technically is supposed to be your fastest receiver. Well, why? Because 95, he's the first read. That quarterback is looking at X. It's a yes or no decision on the third step. Can I throw X or not? So that was our 6th element, because when he would get past the corner, and if the safety was laid over the top, well, then we would get the down the field shot that we needed that normally we all get out of 4 verticals, whether you call it 6 or you call it go, or whatever it is, if you're run and shoot philosophy. That's how we got that down the field threat throw with 6. But we never really called 6 that much because it just wasn't as good for us. But again, that was our context. That took research and reps from me and our coaching staff to figure out, okay, what can we do well? And how can we still push the ball down the field the way that we need to? Does that answer your question?
We got time for one more quick question. Again, do not want to stand between any man and food. So, again, during lunch, you're going to have time to network and go ask whoever whatever questions, and so also have time to talk to our vendor. So we'll actually head straight into lunch. What it's going to be, here's the situation we have. It's